Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everyone to our very special program today, Qurban Behind the Scenes, with our special guest, Ustaz Zahid Zin, all the way from Singapore. Now, for today's program, it's a very special program. We're going to learn more about who are the Suffa Qurban partners this year in 2021. And we're going to be asking all sorts of questions from our side so that you, the community, can learn more about who is doing the Qurban this year on our behalf, how it's going to be done. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments below. And inshallah, by the end of the program, if we have time in the last 10 minutes, we will ask any questions from the community. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Ustaz Zahid Zin next to me, and I'll give a short, semi-short description for our UK viewers, because many of you may not have heard of Ustaz Zahid before, but they tell me in Singapore he's a bit of a big name. So we'll add in Ustaz Zahid. Assalamu alaikum, Ustaz Zahid.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How's everyone over there?
Alhamdulillah, we're doing very well here. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Thank you so much for inviting.
No problem at all. It's our pleasure. Thank you for accepting to come on here with us.
Alhamdulillah.
So before we begin, as we can all see Ustaz Zahid here sitting next to me virtually, I'll give a short description of who Ustaz Zahid is. Now, Ustaz Muhammad Zahid bin Muhammad Zin started his early Islamic studies in Singapore in Madrasa Al-Junaid Al-Islamiyah. Now, as many of our community already know, this is also where Ustaz Zaki began his journey. Am I right in saying you knew each other from Singapore, Ustaz?
Yes, of course.
And then you both went on to study in Abu Noor Institute in Damascus, is that right?
Yeah, so he's a year older than me. So he graduated a year before me, and then he continued to Syria, which after that I follow on.
MashaAllah. And then when Ustaz Zahid finished his studies, he traveled back to Singapore, and he's had a real variety of roles throughout the year, from working as the executive imam at Masjid Muhajirin, and he's worked for incredible programs for disabled Muslims in Singapore, and further moved on to working on humanitarian efforts, such as the Syrian refugee crisis in 2016. Can you tell us a bit about your involvement in that program back in 2016?
So I think it started from the Gaza thingy back in 2015. So when the Gaza shelling happened, we thought that we saw a lot of people getting a little bit more angry. So there are a lot of reactions coming in from the community. So for me, I think I need to give and to allow some spaces for them to contribute to the situation. So we started a fundraising project back then in 2015. We gathered some friends together, and we thought that, okay, why don't we do this, and then we help them. It was tremendous, and I think I was very shocked at the reaction from the community at that point of time. We raised 2.4 million Singapore dollars for in less than 2 weeks or something like that.
MashaAllah.
Yeah. Hence, then I have some friend who then trusted with me some funds to start going around and then trying our very best to venture into humanitarian works, which then of course leading me to a lot of international conferences, attending some meetings, and of course I also part of the humanitarian committee and forum in Southeast Asia, which we discuss about the issues regarding on the Rohingyas, on the Uyghurs, and Yep. So yeah,
MashaAllah.
and that's all. I think it's short stint for me for like 5 to 6 years before I move on with the next part of my life.
That's right. So you moved on, and you've been part of many more things since then. You in your bio here it says that you're part of Madih al Mustafa, the Qasida group. Is that right?
Oh yes, Alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah. And you're also registered with the Institute of Muslim Marriages in Singapore as well. And you have marriage preparation classes in Singapore. And now, more recently, you are CEO of MYF, Muslim Youth Forum Singapore. Can you tell us a bit about, short about who MYF is in Singapore?
Actually, a good question because MOF was formed, inspired by me and my partner when we attended this meeting back in Birmingham, actually.
In Birmingham, UK.
Yeah.
MashaAllah. Okay.
Birmingham Sheriff, what they call over there.
Yeah, that's right. Birmingham Sharif. That's what they call it.
So we were at Birmingham, attending some conference with partners and friends, and then we met up with this humanitarian forum led by Dr. Hani Al-Banna. And then we somehow thought that it is something fresh because some the young people, they like to create some new things, and they do not like to be associated with traditional setups and whatsoever, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. So what will happen is that I told my partner, I said, why don't we set up this Muslim Youth Forum, that we don't have any database, but we serve ourselves as forum, and everyone could be part of it.
Hmm.
So if you ask me, do we have any members? No, we don't have any database of members, but probably we say that we can link um, to almost every youth institutions and setups here back in Singapore.
Hmm. And then tell us a bit more about how this transitioned into what we're talking about today, which is the SMART Qurban Project.
Good. So since 2015, when we started our humanitarian project back in Singapore,
Hmm.
one of the humanitarian program that we do is actually Qurban Project, a yearly annual Qurban Project.
Hmm.
Back then, almost every Adil Adha, I am the one who travel around the world, meeting partners, making sure that the partners are reliable, and also to make sure that the money and the funds that has been trusted to us is really, really trustable.
Hmm.
So I'm one who go to the end of Macedonia, to Kenya, to some African places, and to see with my own eyes because
Hmm.
we people trusted us with the fund. So I must make sure that the Korban over there is done according to the Sharia,
Hmm.
and of course to make sure that the partner over there are trustable ones and trustworthy. So when I stopped working as the humanitarian manager back in Bapa, I did stop for a few years. I ventured into something different. I do event management programs, digital media. But then again, um, people start to come over and ask us for some advice because I'm the one who move around. I'm the one who goes around the world, meeting clients and meeting potential partners and whatsoever. So I
Hmm.
act as a consultant for worldwide Korban for some businesses and Islamic institutions in Singapore. So in last 2 years, I thought that why don't then we create a product that we call it a SMART because there's an acronym for SMART. First is a
Hmm.
sustainable, S for sustainable, M for measurable, A for attainable, R for reliable, and T for trustworthy.
Hmm.
So yep, so to make sure that because nowadays we had some problems, especially back in Singapore in bringing livestock.
Hmm.
So what happened is that a lot of more Singaporeans are now contributing and doing the Quran outside of Singapore.
Okay. Okay.
But to make sure that the partners that you pick are the one who is trusted is a challenge, because in digital world right now, scam is everywhere.
For
Yeah.
sure. For sure.
So they will just go over, ask you for some monies, and then throw you some pictures, and then what happen is that the last thing you know, that they will not even do your korban. I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been making sure we've changed a lot of partners. We learn and relearn and unlearn a lot of processes. And up till day, we are still in the ground, appointing reliable ones and trustworthy ones. And Alhamdulillah, for the past 3 or 4 years, we got good partners down
Alhamdulillah.
in the places that we do our korban.
Alhamdulillah. So, if I was to summarize that, then one of your main intentions as to why you set up your own Qurban project is so you could ensure the trust for the funds.
Yes, because you see, when you have people who trusted you with with the funds, right?
Mm,
And you are back in London. So when you trusted some people, say for example, if you go and make your korban back in Palestine,
yeah.
um, no one knows where in Palestine that you do. No one know how they do it. You know who does it. In fact, one of the most asked question in this period is that, is it really going to be happen inside Gaza or Rafah, has been mentioned and has been promised. Um, so as a humanitarian before, worker before, what I did is that actually I do go down to the places. I actually went down even to Syria during the war
MashaAllah.
to see the processes over there, and to make sure that whatever thing that happen must be done by the most trusted partners, especially by the NGOs who are accredited by world bodies or something like that. Because there will always be some people who is trying to, scam you, and then take some funds from people, and then promises something, and there, and you see the popping pictures over here and there. If I may say so, my experience is that I even saw some people hijacking other people korban
Wow.
picture,
Photos. Yeah.
Photoshop is, yes, and then claim it as theirs. Yes, I had fair share of that experience
Subhanallah.
before. But since the 10 years we've done it, and Alhamdulillah, we find trustworthy partners. That's why if you see a lot of my pictures that we offered to Suffa and also all the rest of the partners, is that I'm going to make sure that our partners over there must wear the proper T-shirt, must make sure that they do up do a background banner. So these are little bits of details that we've cleaned up all over these years to make sure that whatever funds that has been trusted to us are really taken care of.
MashaAllah. So, um, our community, we told them, obviously they know that this year Sofa's offering 3 countries as products for the Qurban. We have Yemen, Rohingya, and Palestine. So I think one of the first questions they have, specifically for the logistics of this project, is how did you connect with the people on the ground in these 3 countries to begin with? Because even when we listen to Qurban organizations outside, they always say we meet people on the ground. But I think we really want to learn, how does that happen? So you take a plane, you get there, and then what next?
True. So before this, what happened is that before COVID, we ensure that every year, um, 3 or 4 representative of our company will go to different parts of the world, and especially to different parts of the location, to make sure the Qurban process is being done correctly. But due to COVID, what happened is that we cannot travel. Hence, the trust have to be doubled. So if you ask me, that this trust has been we've been working on it since like maybe 2015, some 11 years of working with them. I've known them personally, hosted them back in Singapore, and they hosted me back there. They are the one who work with me, who move with me. We travel the world together with a lot of our partners back then. I personally went into, I think, every single places that you have mentioned before, Yemen, Palestine, and also Rohingya. For Rohingya, if I were to say so, I have not ever been to Rohingya, but my partner Shahriza, in the company, he is the first Singaporean to be in the Rakhine state. So for your information, Rohingya, distribution for Rohingya, okay, so it's like this. Whatever things that you see, especially in regards of refugees, the first question that you ask them is that, are you going to distribute the meat in the refugee center, or are you going to distribute the meat to the people inside the country? So that's a legit question. So at every place that you want to do the Qurban, I think that's a legit question. And you can ask that to them. Because only then you can know that some of them, even they do not do inside Syria. So they will say that, oh, we're doing for the Syrian people. And then I will ask them, where? Because Syrian people are scattered around the world, right? So they may be in Germany, they may be in Turkey, they may in a lot of places. Even we have this biggest Syrian refugee center in Jordan. Some of them in Lebanon. Yeah. So you if you were to ask them, okay, are you contributing, are you distributing my meat or my Qurban in the refugee center in other countries, or are you distributing inside the country? These 11 years, I have to make sure that everyone have to trust me that I, in SMART Qurban, and we in SMART Qurban, will make sure that every single Qurban that you guys are intended will be done inside the place and inside the country. For example, for this year, for Palestine, we have around 3 to 4 different places that we are doing it. Like in Gaza, in Khan Yunis, in Rafah, and in some other cities. The reason that we diversify the cities inside a country is because of the volatility of the situation.
Sure.
Okay, so in any case, what I do is that in any case that you cannot do your Qurban in Gaza, for example. So what will happen is that we will make sure that it will still be done inside Palestine, but in a different state, in a different city. Yeah, so that will happen too in Rohingya. That will also happen in Yemen, because in Yemen we are setting up a few camps in different areas such as Aden, Sana'a, and different cities. So the reason because the situation over there are very volatile. Anything can happen at the very last minute. So in any case that something's happen, for example, another shelling back in Gaza, we're going to make sure that every single of your Qurban that you send over to Palestine must be happening inside Palestine and not outside Palestine, and not outside in a refugee center. So for example, in Rohingya, do you know that a lot of people who does it in Rohingya, they will say that they will do it in Cox's Bazar.
Okay.
All right.
And where's that?
So Cox's Bazar is actually in Bangladesh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what happened is that Rohingya is a state in between of Bangladesh and also Myanmar. So what happened is that they are neither Rohingya, they are neither Burmese, and they neither Bangladeshis. Yeah. So I had a meeting with them back in Kuala Lumpur in their they call themselves as United World Rohingya Organization. I met with the leader over there. So what happened is that they in a sense they don't have nationality.
Right.
So they are. If you take a look at Rohingyas, if you ask all the Rohingyas, they say that Rohingyas are from the state they call themselves a Rakhine state. So Rakhine state means that if you want to go inside the Rakhine state, you must take a plane and then you must flew down to Rakhine, which is the side of Burma. I've not been there yet. I was not allowed to fly at that point of time, but my partner did goes over to Rakhine. And then we did meet with trusted NGOs back there in Rakhine. And almost, if you see some of our promotional videos that we send to you, especially those with Al Ustaz t-shirt on them, these are actually inside Rakhine State and not in Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh. Yeah, if you ask me how we do that, firstly, we make sure that all our partners over there are NGOs, so they are not business partners.
Sure.
They are not the one who trades with Korban. These are the people who name themselves as non-governmental office. They are the one who work there annually. They distribute help to people. They have centers, they have camps, they have offices. We know them personally. We know who they are. We know who they set up. We do checkups with the relevant authorities over there to make sure that they don't support any unlikely terrorism or whatsoever. And Alhamdulillah, all these partners are reliable ones, and we are very happy. They have been given us a lot of good feedbacks and also good support from the ground.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. So, specifically about the Rakhine state,
Yep.
where is it in Rohingya?
Okay, so Rohingya is a tribe.
Okay,
Okay, so there are a people which they call them as Rohingyas.
sure.
So they are stated in between Bangladesh and Myanmar or Burma. Yeah. So basically, if you take a look at the people, Rohingyan people, they are neither Bangladeshis or they are neither Burmese. So they have their own state in middle of Myanmar and also Burmese. They don't recognize themselves as Burmese, and they also don't recognize themselves as
Sure.
Bangladeshis.
Yeah, yeah.
So they speak their own language or whatsoever. So it states a lot. The situation says the situation for them is like hundreds of years of issues, politics, and whatsoever. So what happened to them is actually they cannot name themselves as a state. They are neither Burmese, they are neither Bangladeshis. None of these two neighboring partners are accepting them as one.
Yeah.
And of course, because of some political issues and background and history, they were oppressed by both sides. And that leads to the bad situation of the community. So they were oppressed, they were blockades, and if I'm not wrong, I've read somewhere about some ethnic cleansing that happened. And to make things worse, that once they travel abroad because they are nationless, it took a long time for them to be recognized as someone who is seeking an asylum. Yep. So if you see that, okay, for us, it's easy for us to go over and run to another embassy and seek for an asylum, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But for them, it's quite difficult because they don't bring papers and they don't have papers. They don't have birth certificates. They don't have passport whatsoever. So once they drift, once they go, and for your information, if they travel around, they run away, they seek for asylum. It's not free. They have to pay for it. Yep, and they are subjected into kidnappings, and so there's a lot of issues that happens. But Alhamdulillah, since a few years back, some NGOs are there fighting for their rights. We are working with a lot of people over there. I have established some networks with even United Nations offices in Rakhine State. And Alhamdulillah, we have been managed to send over our Qurban meat in Rakhine for the last maybe 4 to 5 years. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So, in terms of the animals themselves, in these three countries, where do you get the animals from?
Great question.
Yeah.
Good question, because
is there ever a situation where there's more Qurban orders than there are available animals, things like that?
Okay, so interestingly, I don't know if I should speak about this, but whenever there's a tragedy, there will be people profiteering from it.
Mm, mm. It's
For
true.
example, um, if you were talking about India, so for us over here, we offered some India. We offered cow for India. So actually, interestingly, people ask me about, okay, can we really do kurban for cow? Isn't it
Mm,
something
mm.
like uh,
Sacrilegious or
taboo
something.
to? Yeah,
Mm.
it's like a
Yeah,
religious thing. You cannot eat cow over there back in India. But people forget that some Indian states are actually Muslim majority.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have like Kerala, the southern part of India, which is like almost like 95% Muslim. Over there, a cow is a cow. Yeah. So, but
Yeah.
if you go to Mumbai, if you go to other places, of course, you'll be subject to penalty if you do something for the cow. But what I'm going to say is that in every state that have problems and tragedy, there will always be some people profiting from that.
Sure.
Um, like it or not, I don't want to name it as profiteering tragedy, but I always say my belief is that whenever we want to help people, we must be a little bit more insensitive because we have a mission. The mission is actually
Mm,
to help the people inside. Of course, if you want to be like sustainable, make sure that, oh no, we cannot do this. We cannot take animals from them. They are businesses. We cannot buy from them. Like for example, in Palestine, how do you get animals in Palestine for like 500, 5,000 people, 5,000 animals? For your information, that at every Korban, there will be like thousands of livestock coming in because people know that this is how they are making money out of it.
mm.
Um, I went to Syria once through Turkey in Halab during the war actually. So when I go into Halab, they ask me because I bring some goods from Singapore to be distributed back in Halab. They told me
Mm.
that no, no, you cannot bring the things. You can only bring some cash. So I was okay.
Oh.
Why do I need to bring some cash? Because
Mm.
I had some, yeah, I have some clothing, I have some food. I said, okay, never mind. The food and the drinks will be distributed to the Syrian refugees in Turkey. You just need to bring some cash. So when we all go over and travel to Turkey through Halab,
Mm.
we were brought to somehow a welfare and humanitarian supermarket.
Okay, a market.
True. Yeah.
Okay.
It is a fully functioned market, a warehouse, so I say so, which organization came in and buy things from them to be distributed to people inside there.
Wow.
So you try to imagine, yeah, this is
Wow.
the real thing. Yes, this is
Wow.
actually happening inside the world because there will always be people profiting from it.
Mm.
Yes. So what happens that now I know what's the cash is all about. So I go over there, come inside, and it was pile and pile of stocks of food,
Wow.
which then I was asking myself, and then why are people suffering when 100 meters away there is an endless supply of food, which they cannot access because they don't have money to buy.
Mm.
So what happens is that NGOs, organizations travel over, buy fruit from them, bring it out, and then distribute it to the people outside. And amazingly, if you have time, you can travel to Africa. You can see that they have a lot of warehouse selling food, and at the same warehouse, outside of the same warehouse, you can see kids malnourished, s- you know, with just only bones on their flesh.
Mm. Mm.
Yup. And then suddenly you keep on thinking, why do people behaving like this? And then yeah, then you got to know the hard truth of the world. This is how people profiting from tragedy. This is how people really making money and making business out of people misery. And I sincerely at that point of time I think that okay, let's do not entertain all this over emotion and over
Mm.
sensitivity. What
Mm.
we want to do is to make sure that whoever does this because they are profiting tragedy will get something back in their life. My intention at that point of time is just to bring the fun, make sure that we got some food out of from that
The
warehouse and then to
markets,
be
yeah.
distributed. Yeah.
Mm.
So if you were talking about warehouse stocking up piles of food, I told you you will be shocked to see warehouse stocking with livestock.
Mm. Live
Yeah,
livestock.
really. And you'll be shocked to know that okay, these are livestock they imported from New Zealand,
Yeah.
Australia, yeah,
Yeah.
from abattoirs all over the world, and people
Mm.
they are coming through like flights and flights and flights because they know that the market is that when Korban happens, people want to do and help.
Mm.
Yep. So I've been to an abattoir in London, no, in Australia. So for your information, at one time the I think the biggest abattoir in Australia. I think at one time, I still remember they have like maybe around 2 million stocks of like
Wow.
livestock. Yep.
Mm.
So it is endless supply during this time, so it will not be a problem at all, because they will always be. So it is not. Some people when they think about this, who take care of the sheep, how can they make sure that the sheep is coming, who is the shepherds, who take care on whose farm the sheep
Mm.
and the
Mm.
goats have been bred or something like that. I'm telling you,
Mm.
that is not happening in the humanitarian world. It
Mm.
is a big industry that some people
Mm.
are really taking
Inshallah.
profit from it.
So this is why you use the term that you have to be insensitive if your intention is to help these people. You just have to go. You have to just work within that system.
Yeah, so we have some activists who came out and question on why we are supporting all these ideas of people bringing livestock, because absolutely these are the ones who are making in lots and tons of money, is it?
Mm.
But um, the main intention is that for you to bring the food to the people who are in need.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, especially for those people who really can't see any meat like for the whole year.
Mm.
Yeah, for your information, that getting meat, especially in like Palestine and like if you take a look at pictures, like people distributing food in Palestine and in Yemen, seldom you will see meat. You will always see like chicken.
Okay.
Yep. So poultry are cheap,
Mm. Mm.
but meat are luxury.
Mm. Mm.
Yes. So for us over here, that okay, of course, some activists when they come up to us and say that okay, we cannot support the system, we must fight. I understand that some system are imperfect, but my main intention is that to make sure that at least once a year, some of this family could have some meat for them to eat,
Mm. Mm.
and also to bless them with some especially for some places, actually to bless them with some work.
Sure. Sure.
Okay, so if you take a look at Yemen, if you take a look at Rohingya, if you take a look at Palestinians, for Smart Qurban Project, it is not just the money that you supported from your funds, not actually is going 100% to buying the livestock and to be distributed.
Yeah.
It is actually some of part of your money is going to sustain some families for the whole year actually.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
Inshallah.
we're going to take some percentage of it to employ locals, giving them some work. And Alhamdulillah, the news that we got for a few years, actually, some of them can actually sustain, even if it's not big, but Alhamdulillah, it can sustain them for like maybe 6 to 7 months of livelihood back then.
Mm.
So we created jobs for Palestinians,
Inshallah.
we created jobs
Mm.
for Yemenis, Rohingyas, and Alhamdulillah, I think the main intention is that not just giving them a day of food, but to make sure that yeah, provide them for some food for the rest of the year.
Mm. Inshallah. So the this way of sourcing the animals, is this situation true for all the three countries, Yemen, Rakhine, and Palestine?
Okay, so different countries have different ways of sourcing their livestock.
Mm. Mm.
For Palestine, different systems cities have some different ways of sourcing. Some are brought in, like for Rafah, some of the livestock are brought in from Egypt because it is just around the corner.
Sure.
For Palestine, some of it are brought in from different parts of the world. Um, Interestingly, some of us were talking about what kind of blockades, okay, there are blockades, and then how are we going to make sure that this happens?
That's right. Yeah.
Um, if you go and sit at the gate of Gaza, you can actually see that tons and tons of lorries coming over in and out because economy is still
Still moving.
alive.
Mm.
Yeah, it's still moving. The only issue is that the humanitarian part of the whole Palestinian and Gaza situations. But economy is still alive. People are still living. Banks are still open.
Subhanallah.
I still remember we still send them some funds at the morning of Eid in Gaza.
Mm.
So I always mention to, especially my students who came up to me and study, I always say that to them, okay, reading news is good, but to make sure that you read a bit more than some others will be a bit more better to understand the
Mm.
real situation, what happened inside Gaza, what happened inside Rohingya, what happened inside Yemen, why does food is a problem. Actually, I tell you, I don't think there's an issue of scarcity of food. I
Sure.
believe that all of these are mainly political. Some of them are some issues and histories that we ourselves cannot understand because it's a little bit sensitive and a little bit more local, the situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you ask me how do we source differently at different situation, hence if you ask me as Smart Qurban at different countries that we are offering, we are also doing it in different cities because of the
Mm.
volatility of the situation,
So it's
and to
all
make
about
sure that,
being
yep,
it's all about being flexible.
and diversify.
Makes sense.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Inshallah. Thank you very much for explaining that. I know it's quite complex. So,
No, it's
so
okay. Please do. I always mention this to everyone that if you have time, you know, just go over there and to open up your eyes and to see that some situations are not just as mentioned by the media. So when over here,
mm,
when people talking about Gaza and everything, I can only smile because I cannot brief everything, whatever things that I saw in my eyes. When
yeah.
people say that, hey, how come the blockades and then people are not sending food, people are not getting food? I say that when I am the gate of Gaza, I see like tons of food coming in. I see, trucks and trucks and trucks living in Gaza and going in through Rafah.
Mm,
When the war happened in Syria, I was crossing the border of Turkey and also Syria. I see like miles of trucks sending
mm,
food in. So when I came into Syria, and then I said that, hey, why do people is still hungry over here when I see trucks coming in? And then
mm,
I know that, okay, the foods are coming in, the economy is running, shops are opening, but the thing is that people are not getting the food. So there must be something, there must be some issues over there. So I got to know that, okay, oh, so these are political issues, these are some sensitive issues that we cannot even
mm, mm,
mention. And if you ask me that, some people, they come up to us and say that, oh, Yaman, people are not getting food.
mm,
How to make sure that you send your food and then they make sure that they have food. I say to you that I don't think there is an issue of food. I think the issue is that more political.
mm.
The issue is um, you know is government to government issue,
Sure, sure.
and it can be solved through humanitarian.
Mm, mm, mm.
Yeah. So
So,
that's the only issue.
mm. So, so back to the smart Qurban process. So you've sourced the livestock, and then it comes to Eid and the days of Tashriq. Who then does the slaughtering, the udhiyah of the animals in these countries?
Yeah. So we have been working with partners. And Alhamdulillah, our partners back there are all Muslims. And like I mentioned before, we created jobs, not just for young people over there, but also for the local imams. Yeah.
Inshallah.
So what happened is that during the Qurban period, we employed slaughters, those who, especially those imams, local imams at their cities, pay them and ask them to slaughter
MashaAllah.
the animals. And for information that I think I still remember at one point of time, I had this experience. I forget, maybe in Yemen or maybe in Palestine, that they did my Qurban, because we sent over like maybe like 400 ships or something like that. They call me at early morning, maybe 9 a.m., and then they call me around 12, something like that, midday.
Sure.
And then they said, okay, Alhamdulillah, every 300 of you now settled. So I said, wow, it's so fast. And said that, yeah, the Korban projects and programs are a massive event over there. As yes, you know, I don't think that Malay Muslim, kita Malay Muslim celebrated Hari Raya Aidilfitri, eh?
Yeah,
Yeah. But for the rest of the world, it's like Eid al-Adha, right?
that's right. That's right. Eid
Yeah.
al-Akbar.
Eid al-Akbar, yes. So the world is celebrating it like nobody business. Only back here in Singapore and also some part of Malaysia and Indonesia is like, oh, Eid al-Adha, okay, it's a smaller event.
Yeah.
But for the rest of the world, it's a bigger event. It's Eid al-Akbar, sorry.
MashaAllah. So then, alhamdulillah, the um, the animals have been sacrificed, and then you've got all the meat. So then, how does the distribution process happen in these countries, and how do you find the people who need it and give it out?
Okay, that is why we're working with the humanitarian NGOs over there, which they have a database of the needy people. I think last year our Korban benefited maybe around 20 to 30,000 families. Yep. So in average, we time it by four, so maybe around 80,000 people that has
MashaAllah.
been benefited from Smart Qurban 2020. Partners have database. Some of them working with refugee camps. Some of them working with local partners. Because you guys are not offering Indonesia. If I may say Indonesia, they're working with the pesantrens, they're working with the schools, they're working with some local mosques.
MashaAllah.
And interestingly, Indonesian have a different way of distributing. So what happened is that they have a centralized Korban center, and then they will be sending the meat all over the place, and then they will deploy a representative in every small kampungs, and they will give every household a ticket for them to collect the meat.
Okay.
Yes, so that is what happening in Indonesia. But for some places, for example, like Rohingya, they will go around, they will distribute the meat to the needy people. For Gaza, they have database of people who already been given some information to take the meat. So they will come in after the Korban period ends, and then the distribution will happen. And in fact, some of the places they will store some meat for future programs, especially for like places like the refugee centers. They will store at least maybe around 100 to 200 tons of meat.
Wow.
Yes, and then they will be put inside a chiller. And the meat will be used throughout the whole year to cook food for people, and yeah, to distribute hot food for the kitchen.
Yeah, it makes sense because I can imagine sometimes there's too much food, so
A
there's no
lot, yeah.
point of distributing it.
Yes,
Mashallah.
yes. Because they will be like surplus of meat.
Mm.
So what happened is that we're gonna give some of them, maybe some one household we get around maybe 2 to 3 kilos of meat. And then what happened? They will keep in their warehouse inside a chiller.
Mm.
And if you take a look at our programs, so Smart Qurban, the interesting part of working with Smart Qurban is that I have an intention to not just feed people with the Qurban meat for one day. My
Mashallah.
intention is that to create a lot of kitchens, to
Mm.
make sure that we had a lot of meat for them to be used for the rest of the year. So, for example, in
Mm.
Singapore, when we do like live Qurban, so in Singapore there is a product of Australian sheep that we slaughtered in Australia, and we bring the whole carcass back in Singapore.
Mm.
Yeah, so we distribute the meat back in Singapore to those who do the korban. Last year we had fried a container full, like maybe around 100 ton or something like that.
Mashallah.
Yeah. So what we do here back in Singapore is that we distribute maybe quarter of it, and then the three-quarter of it, we ran out a warehouse, a chiller.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
froze the meat, and then we do different programs throughout the whole year. For example, last year we do this event named the Thank You Baya. As you know, that Singaporean have a lot of Bangladeshi worker.
Sure,
So
yeah.
during festive months, especially during Hari Raya, during Maulidur Rasul, during Nisfu Sha'ban, during Awal Muharram, so what we
Mm.
do is actually we get it fun, cook for them a good biryani, and treat them with some food.
Mm.
Yes,
Mashallah.
so that's the intention of Smart Qurban, to actually not just distributing meat for that day,
Mm.
but actually to save some so that we could have a few programs and different programs throughout the whole year. And throughout the whole year, we can benefit them. As far as in Singapore, what happens is that at every occasion, like Nisfu Sha'ban, we cook some biryani for and then we go distribute in their dormitories. We go over in their dormitories, give them some food, and once in a while, we go over even sending some fresh meat, some frozen meat to them for them to cook on their own. Yep. So these are
Mashallah.
the type of programs and projects
Mm.
that I thought can be a little bit sustainable,
Mm.
can be a little bit more different rather than just
Mm.
giving people food. Because if you take a look at the mass amount of slaughters that happened during the first 3 days of Rab, I think it will be enough for the whole world, isn't it?
Yeah, mashallah.
Yeah.
So,
So
mashallah. So
instead of just going, yeah.
this is one of the main benefits of working as a partner with Smart Qurban, because it's not just thinking about tomorrow. It's thinking about sustainable. You're creating jobs. You're feeding people for more than just the few days after Eid. It's a real big thinking to really help and solve. Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. So, as we draw near to the end of this session, want to ask some bigger picture questions. For example, maybe what are some of the biggest challenges or lessons you've learned working in this project in the last few years?
Especially volatility of the situation.
Mm.
Because a lot of the places that we are doing is currently under critical situation. Like Yemen, it's not just malnourishment. It's not just about food.
Mm.
When you go to Kenya, Malawi, you go into Somaliland, there are more bullets than food on the table.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
so yeah, I still remember I was I think in Somaliland or something like that. I see a lot of people carrying in bullets. Even the small children are carrying like rifles. And for your information, one bullet costs $2.
Wow.
Yes, and then they have bullets all over their body, right?
Yeah, on
So
the holder.
yeah, on the holder. So when they hold the rifle, that rifle costs maybe around 200 USD. And that bullets around their body maybe can cost around 200 USD. Yet they don't have food to give
Mm.
people. So
Mm.
I was questioning all this, why does this happen, but these are political issues. And yeah, you cannot explain it because some people have different situations, right?
Yeah.
Situations and yeah. So when you ask me, I think the biggest challenge is about volatility. Hence, these 10 years we refine, we learn, we unlearn the process. If you ask me where do I do my korban inside a city, that's why I mentioned we do a little
You
in different
diversify.
places. Yeah, we diversify the situation because we know that, for example, last year I think Kenya have some problems. Um, so in Africa, for example, it's all about warlords, it's about tribes. So so you try to do in one place and then some warlords come over and then try to hijack some ships and then they call you and say that, oh, they cannot, they don't they ask for few thousands of dollars before we could start a
Wow.
project. So you see this kind
Wow.
of issues coming in. So what happened is that we diversify the places. We must make sure. So for us over here, we'll be on our feet. Even at the second or third day of Tashrik, my guys will be in the office holding on to their phone, making real tawakkul to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala that none of this will happen. But in any case that
Inshallah.
this will happen, like for example in Kenya, they call us like in the eve of Eid al-Adha, they say that some tribesmen hijacking some of their livestock. So I call
Wow.
them and I say that, okay, so move the 100 sheep to another place. So they move around. Yeah, because when you have like 100 sheep in one tribe, the
Yeah.
other tribes will come over and say that, oh,
Yeah.
why don't you distribute it with me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Inshallah.
So that actually happened. I still remember when in Somaliland, um, that happened. So we goes over to a place. Another tribe comes over and say that, hey, actually you must divide it into two. We need some, and they also need some. Yeah, so we do some negotiation and say that, okay, never mind. So how about like this? We do in a different place, and then we're going to distribute the meat. No, 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 no. We must have the livestock because we have the local imams. Our local imams are much more better than the other tribe local imams. We are Hanafis, they are Shafi'is. So we slaughter differently. We throw. So these are the discussion that happen,
Wow. Wow.
and it is being taken care by our local partners.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
They
So
understand the
on our
situation
side,
better.
better. Yeah. So instead of you just going there and then fighting things that you can't understand because of the local
That's right.
context, rather than why
Inshallah.
don't you trust them? So instead of you just going there and then you're going to oversee all the situation, I think the most part of it is the trustworthy. The trust
That's
not
right.
only that you trusted us in Smart Qurban, but of course the trust that we are giving to our partners back there. Um, if Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala permits, if I could bring all of you to walk around the world and see the process, it will be an educational,
MashaAllah.
eye-opening situation, inshallah.
Mm-mm. Well, inshallah, may Allah allow you to document it in the future. Have some kind of
I mean,
documentary. I mean, inshallah, it'd be amazing to see. So, as we come closer to those days of the Qurban period, I know it's very hectic, crazy period of time. Thousands of animals across the world. If you were to step back and think, I want to ask, what's one of your best memories or your happiest memories from the years working in this project?
to be able to create a system that is trustworthy. If you take a look at Smart Qurban is a product of me as an Islamic um, Ustaz, Islamic teacher, and then come humanitarian worker, goes over the situation, see all these things happening, from the humanitarian point of view, and of course from the political point of view, and then transferring into a consultant of a worldwide Qurban. Um, it is, I think, I'm proud with the experience that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has given me. At the very end of it, I think I told my team that, Alhamdulillah, I think this year we haven't heard any complaints yet from the clients. And when I asked them, do we have any complaints? I said that no, Alhamdulillah. So I said that Alhamdulillah, it is 10 years of relearn and unlearn about giving service. to people, and to make sure that people are trusting us on their funds to do the situation. So, like for example, Suffa, when you ask us about question and answer, we are very happy to share with you all the Q&As, all the updates that you shall be giving to your clients, to the people around it. These are like 10 years of work, which I am truly think that our clients are eligible for it. So when you goes over and your clients feel very happy and satisfied with their korban, I think that's the most satisfaction that you can get. But if you ask me about the situation over there, I think overall the most important part of us as young people is to make sure that our programs are sustainable and sustaining people and to give people work. Last year we got a heartfelt message from a guy in Palestine. He actually wants to marry, and because of the situation back there in Gaza is so difficult, he was employed to the project or SMART project, Qurban project, and because of that employment allows him to get married last year. So
MashaAllah,
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
So I thought that um, um, part of it is that not just to get. I believe okay. In a crude word, you are killing animals, right? You're slaughtering animals, but in a positive note, you are creating life for some other people, which is,
MashaAllah.
I think that is much more important for us. We are creating sustainability. We are creating jobs for people. We are making sure that the chains are better. I am trying my very best to redefine profiteering tragedy. I'm going to make
MashaAllah.
sure that, inshallah, the world will become better and we will be able to help people around the world. And of course, being a contributive society, adaptive to the situation, resilient to whatever things that happen around the whole world, and of course, a progressive um, ummah, inshallah.
Inshallah, inshallah. So as we wrap up the session, Ustaz, I just want to ask if you have any final words or messages for our um, Muslim, Malay, and Southeast Asian communities here in London and the UK and Europe, because our Qurban donations here at Suffa Mosque London are open now, and we've got a few more days left, inshallah, before all the donations close. So do you have any final messages for everyone here?
Oh, thank you so much. Been missing to travel back there in Europe, inshallah. Once COVID
Inshallah.
ends, I hope to meet everyone over there. I've been to London twice. Alhamdulillah, love the place, love the people, love the community, especially Sufa. Um, in Singapore, Alhamdulillah, to the dates, for us, Mat Korban, we are processing maybe around 5,000 livestock, Alhamdulillah, up till late
Alhamdulillah.
for this year. I would like to say thank you to everyone for your trust to us doing all these things, inshallah. We try our very best to ensure that your korban is being done in a trusted manner. Korban is, even though it's the sunnah of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, but some
Sallallahu
ulama
Alaihi
say that it is a annual um, sunnah that is encouraged to do. I still remember when I was in Kelantan or something like that. They were saying that every house intended to must have intention to actually cut a korban once a year. I still remember going around and I said, why happened like that? Because in Singapore, some of them say that okay, once in lifetime, maybe twice in lifetime. They say that because it is something that increases the barakah. Yeah. So I encourage everyone, inshallah, to do your very best. Over here in your family, my children have their own korban bank that we put some
Mashallah.
money for them to
Savings,
do the
the
korban.
Qurban Savings
Yes,
Bank.
korban savings bank for a year. We have been doing that for a few years, alhamdulillah.
Mashallah.
So that's why we are offering different places, different prices, according to your family affordability, so that everyone could do their Qurban, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Pray to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala uplift our situation.
Ameen.
Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala bless you everywhere where you are.
Ameen.
Bless your family, bless your situation, bless your work, bless your intention.
Ameen. Ameen.
And may Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala reunite us, inshallah, physically
Ameen.
in a way or another, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.
Ameen. And may Allah reunite us all together with Rasulullah Sallallahu on the Day of Judgment,
Ameen.
inshallah. Ameen.
Ameen. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Ameen. Ameen.
So, Ustaz Zahid, I just want to say thank you very much to you. Thank you very much to everyone on your team. I interact a lot with your colleague, Brother Zamir. And thank you to your partner as well, Shah. It's a really incredible project, and we are so blessed and grateful to be partners with you. It's one of the best Qurban initiatives we've seen, which is why we decided to work with you. May Allah increase your work, give you all long and healthy lives, and may He make the Qurban this year smooth, inshallah.
Ameen.
So, alhamdulillah, that brings us to the end of today's session. I would like to thank everyone in our community that joined us on the live stream here today. I can see lots of love in the comment section, lots of positive words for Ustaz and the team. So, inshallah, everyone here in the UK, please visit thesuffafoundation.org/Qurban. You can see it here in the banner below. And as we mentioned in the session, we're offering 3 countries for all of you this year: Yemen, Rohingya, and Palestine. And our partner here, Ustaz Zahid and SMART Qurban, will be the team who have been entrusted with carrying out the Qurban with their partners in all the countries. So inshallah, may Allah allow us all to fulfill the Qurban this year.
Ameen.
Okay, Ustaz Zahid, we will see you and we'll communicate with your team more over the next few days, inshallah. Thank you very much.
Jazakumullah. Don't forget to dua for us, yeah?
We will, inshallah. Okay,
Ameen.
Assalamu alaikum, Ustaz.
Salam. Thank you so much. Salam.